In the Limelight with me, Saima Ajram.
Welcome to another episode of In the Limelight with Saima Ajram, and today is a very special episode because I'm hosting at Jazba Live! And I have this beautiful live audience here with me, and right on this stage besides me, you're going to get to see live performances by two very different artists, two artists that have hailed all the way from Pakistan. One supports Sufi and folk music, and the other is a teen pop icon. It is Arieb Azhar and Saima Ajram! I'm actually really excited about this because it's not very often that I actually get to have two big artists perform on my show. So it's great to have you all with us. I think you need to do one big cheer for yourselves as well. Without further ado, shall we invite on the guests, our artists today? I think it's really important that we introduce our musicians as well today because they do a lot of hard work, right? So I'm going to invite on my first musician. He's a tabla player hailing all the way from Lahore. His name is Kashif Dani, and he's very, very talented. He started playing with Salamat Ali Saab, and from Sham, he's from the Sham Durrasi Gharana, labelled as an Ustad from Ustad Shafqat Ali himself. He is Kashif Dani. Kashif bhai, assalamu alaikum. थोड़ा सा हमें कमाल सुना देंगे? Amazing. Now, without further ado, let me invite our first performer this evening. आपने सुफियाना कलाम की बेहद खिदमत की है सिर्फ पाकिस्तान में नहीं बल्कि क्रोएशिया, बॉस्नियन में too. He's sung in Irish as well. हमारी खुशकिस्मती है कि आज वो हमारे संग मौजूद हैं. Please, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Mahina Sufi folk artist Arieb Azhar. Come on, guys, तालियों के साथ उनका इस्तकबाल कीजिए. So tonight, guys, you're not only going to get to experience the music, you're also going to get to meet the artists as well. So it's a special evening. Through me, you're going to get to meet them. I'm going to be asking them some questions, getting to know them as people, as artists, and then getting to hear their music as well. Arieb bhai, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Welcome to In the Limelight with Saima Ajram and Jazba Acoustic.
Thank you very much. Pleasure being here.
It's a pleasure having you. You've travelled so far. UK कैसे लगा आपको?
UK हर दफा अच्छा ही लगता है, बड़ा दिलचस्प. काफी सारे पहलू हैं. Like, you know, it's interesting. It's edgy also at times because I feel like multicultural just doesn't mean like a bunch of cultures living together unless they're interacting.
Yes.
So, you know, so it's like very interesting here.
I think we do interact. People always ask me, how do you speak Urdu very well? You speak Punjabi, but I'm actually Mirpuri. I think that is because of multiculturalism, isn't it, guys?
Yeah.
Living here in Birmingham, it's multiculturalism at its best. I think we're really lucky that we have that. इस बात पे तालियां हो जाए. तो UK में आप आते रहते हैं?
हाँ, आता रहता हूँ like almost once a year, twice a year, which is not that much actually if you think of it, but yeah.
लेकिन आप दुनिया भर में घूमे हैं?
हाँ, घूमा तो हूँ.
Tell us about other countries that you've been in.
Well, I grew up in Pakistan. I didn't travel abroad till I was 17. And then the first country I went to was the Soviet Union, which it was still the Soviet Union back then, because I used to be a young communist at that time. And I thought that would be the promised land. So I went there and I was disappointed to see that you have the same problems there as anywhere else in the world. So I came back to Pakistan and then I went abroad to study in Yugoslavia. And when it was still Yugoslavia, and then a year afterwards the war broke out, it fell apart, so then I just decided to stick it out. So I spent 13 years in Croatia and then shifted back to Pakistan. And then my music has taken me to Germany, Bosnia, Japan recently, that was really interesting,
Wow.
Kyrgyzstan, US.
Not only countries, but your music crosses many genres as well.
I suppose, I don't really do it consciously, but I suppose that's the experiences that life has put me through.
How would you describe your music?
I call myself a folk musician, but because I sing a lot of poetry in Punjabi and Urdu and Bosnian and Croatian and Irish, but since I do it on the guitar, so people call it fusion music, although I think I'm a folk musician.
What is the difference? You've got Sufi music, you've got Sufyana Kalam, जैसे हम कहते हैं, you've got Saif Malouk, you've got folk music, spiritual music. What's the difference?
Well, Sufi music is a term which I'm not really happy with, because Sufi music, it's not really a genre of music, it's basically a poetry. So you can sing that poetry in a pop style or in an electronic trance style, or you can sing it in a folk style or a classical style. So is all this Sufi music? It's not, I think, it's just you're using the poetry. So I think like most of the Sufyana Kalam which we've become acquainted with comes to us through folk music and Qawwali music, but also now people are trying all sorts of things, which is great.
And amazing, and I think you're the pioneer of that, Arieb. You have
Thank
to
you.
take credit for that, guys. A round of applause for that. I think you are one of the very few artists that we have in Pakistan that really sort of, travels around the world spreading peace, love, and unites people spiritually.
Well, that's I think what our land is truly about and what our roots are truly about. And I think one of the problems which our society is going through is this identity crisis. And the reason is because Pakistan doesn't really have an identity unless it's an identity of Punjab, Siraiki speaking, Sindh, Balochistan, Brahui, Burushaski, Shina, Kalashi, Pashto. And all these things together make up Pakistan, and we don't celebrate these things individually. And I think we're sort of missing out on the humanistic message that comes through in all the beautiful poetry and all of these beautiful languages.
Yeah, I think that you're absolutely right there. I think that's where, to an extent here in England, we've got it right, because we do celebrate each other's cultures, and we do unite in that sense.
Yeah, sometimes you need to be away from a place in order to appreciate it.
To appreciate it a bit more, absolutely right. Let's talk about your background musically. I mean, to go into Sufi music, you have to be a very deep individual. Maybe it was in your family. Was it rooted?
Well, I think my family, like both my parents, come from a background of performing arts.
Oh, okay.
My father was like the pioneer of PTV.
Oh, wow.
So like he set up the initial pilot station in Lahore and then Pindi and
Kya naam tha unka?
Aslam Azhar.
MashaAllah.
Today you've got all the Azhars together in one place.
I wasn't going to make, no pun intended. I was going to do that a bit later with Asim.
But yeah, so he came from a background of broadcasting and theatre, and he met my mother in theatre actually. My mother used to be a theatre actress also, and now she's a human rights activist and a women's rights activist and so on. So both of them have had a history of performing arts, and because they were involved in the initial period of setting up PTV. So I grew up in an atmosphere where we had a lot of folk musicians coming to our house and performing. So some of my earliest memories are of Shaukat Ali and Tufail Niazi, Reshma, Alam Lohar. So I think that's where I grew to.
It was all first hand?
Well, yeah, as far as listening is concerned, yeah.
So were your parents were they surprised then when you said you wanted to become a Sufi artist or
they weren't surprised,
folk
but
artist?
No, they weren't surprised, and they've always encouraged it. And I didn't say I want to be a Sufi artist. I said I just want to be an artist and I want to be a musician. And I didn't even know what Sufism was, and I'm not sure if I know quite yet what it is still. I'm still discovering it.
We think it's you.
No.
We think you define it really nicely, and I think Sufi means, for me, it means pure and something that's deep-rooted, positive messages.
I think it's a search.
Yes.
It's a search for one's potential, as it's an expression of truth as you see it, and it's a yearning, I think, for being united with the totality, with finding peace within yourself, and so that continues throughout one's life.
When I look at modern day music, populist music, especially here in the UK, and people will agree with me or disagree, is that Punjabi music seems to be very much domineering. And if your child came home and said, I want to have a career in Punjabi music, you'd think, oh, maybe you wouldn't agree, but then you think, okay, at least, chalta hai, everyone seems to be doing it, it's okay. However, to have embarked on a career of folk music, it's not populist. I'm not sure of Pakistan, but it's not very populist. And how difficult was it to embark on that journey?
It's been difficult as far as meeting ends meet is concerned. It's like initially it was difficult in terms of just getting enough concerts to run your household. Okay. But it becomes easier with time, and I think that anything you really have to spend some time in, dedicate yourself in before you can start getting some results from it. And I think the mistake that most people unfortunately make in their lives is that they do things which they don't really like doing. So they do a 9-to-5 job in sleep mode, and then at 5 o'clock when the office finishes, then they wake up and they say, okay, now I can start my life, which for me is unimaginable. So like, I love my work, and I'm happiest when we're playing and performing and rehearsing and composing. So I think it's very important for a person to do what she loves doing, because that's where you can really put your totality in.
I think unfortunately what you discussed है कि मजबूरी आदमी से काम करवा लेती है. Was there ever a time जब आप इतने मजबूर हो गए कि you loved this art but you thought घर चलाने के लिए I need to do another job? Did you ever do that?
There was.
What did you do?
And I always found something which was connected. So I can't.
क्या किया आपने?
Well, I do, even now I do a radio show twice a week in Islamabad.
Yay! Radio पर तालियां हो जाएं.
So it's a program which is
कौन सा show?
It's on a radio channel which you can only get through mobile phones. It's not an FM. So the listenership is very, very working class, poor people, radiwalas and so on, who don't even have time to listen to FM. So for a few minutes they just listen to radio through their mobile phones. So it's a show called Sufi Rang with Arieb Azhar.
Oh,
and initially it started because there was a couple of months of not getting gigs, and this offer came up, so I said why not, and now I'm really enjoying it. And besides that, I organize music events. In fact, in the beginning of May this year, we organized a 3-day music festival in Islamabad called the Music Mela Conference.
Wow.
And this has now become an annual thing, so we're going to have it next year and the year after that, where we had musicians from all over Pakistan, from all the different genres, and we had workshops and presentations and panel discussions talking about the challenges of the music industry of Pakistan. So I'm involved in music promotion, and I write articles for the Dawn off and on. So.
Oh, lovely. And this Mela that you discussed in the conference, is it mainly for is it a specific genre specific?
No, we try to include everything from classical, folk, rock and roll to fusion. So it's not genre specific. Yeah.
And how difficult is it to utilize other artists within Pakistan to maybe come and support such an event, such a positive event?
Yeah, I think it's not difficult if you have the funding. We got the funding, so
Hey.
it was really easy, and it's surprising. I never stopped being surprised at the fact that we hardly have a music industry in Pakistan, because for a music industry you need to have intellectual property rights system in place, you need to have a lot of live events, you can't just depend on TV shows, like Coke Studio, Nescafe Basement, which are very good, but for an industry to survive you have to have live events, and enough of those don't happen in Pakistan. But despite that fact, there is so much talent and dedicated musicians that you never fail to be inspired by other musicians.
There is so much immense talent in Pakistan, and through my show on BBC, on the radio, through my online YouTube show, I try to portray that and to show people how much talent there is and how important it is for us to support this talent, because this is how this talent's going to live on, move forward. अगर हम इसे support ना करेंगे तो इसका future कुछ भी नहीं. And बहुत ज़रूरी है कि हम prosper करें, not as a nation, not just as a nation, लेकिन हमारी entertainment, हमारी music industry को भी बहुत ज़रूरत है हमारी, and to help them prosper. So I think तालियां हो जाएं for your initiative as well. कुछ मेरी पर भी हो जाए. अच्छा, चलते हैं, बातें तो करते रहेंगे. Performances पे आज आप क्या perform करने वाले, especially the first आपका first?
Well, I guess I hadn't really made a set list, but I think I'm going to start with the Kalandari Dhamal.
Yay.
It's a lesser known Kalandari Dhamal. Most of these dhamals which we're used to listening to, like Lal Meri Pat, Sham-e Kalandar, these have been composed by this composer from Lahore called Nazir Ali, who's passed away now. So this is one of his more obscure compositions, and it's called Tar Ragda. Ragda is, of course, another word also for bhang, but ragda is also like the ragda which we go through in our daily lives, So it says, Tar ragda mast kalandar da, sab jhagda muk jaye andar da.
Arieb Azhar live on Jazba Acoustic.
I'd just like to introduce my longtime friend and colleague on the tabla, Kashif Dani from Lahore, please. We've been playing together for about 5 years, 4 or 5 years now in Pakistan. Like we're in the same band. We've got other members who aren't here. But Dani was here playing with some other musicians in Manchester. So we reunited over here for this show in Birmingham.
Wow, हमारी खुशकिस्मती.
सब झगड़ा मुक जाए अंदर दा तारे रगड़ा मस्त कलंदर दा सब झगड़ा मुक जाए अंदर दा ये गल है इश्क तरीकत दी इत्थे फर्क नहीं मस्जिद मंदर दा तारे रगड़ा रगड़ा तारे रगड़ा तारे रगड़ा रगड़ा तारे रगड़ा तक ले तू दर्शन करते सही तू मरन तो पहला मरते सही बन दारू इश्क समंदर दा सब झगड़ा मुक जाए अंदर दा तारे रगड़ा रगड़ा तारे रगड़ा तारे रगड़ा रगड़ा तारे रगड़ा तारे रगड़ा मस्त कलंदर दा सब झगड़ा मुक जाए अंदर दा मुर्शद मेरा जगदा लाड़ा आसरियां दा सहारा क्या पुछ ले बेशक रब कोलो ओ आशिक आप कलंदर दा तारे रगड़ा रगड़ा तारे रगड़ा तारे रगड़ा रगड़ा तारे रगड़ा तारे रगड़ा मस्त कलंदर दा सब झगड़ा मुक जाए अंदर दा वलिए सारी विलायत दा कोई अंदाजा नहीं सखावत दा इन्हें लाल हुसैनी कहते ने कोई जोड़ नहीं इस सिकंदर दा तारे रगड़ा रगड़ा तारे रगड़ा तारे रगड़ा रगड़ा तारे रगड़ा तारे रगड़ा मस्त कलंदर दा सब झगड़ा मुक जाए अंदर दा ये गल है इश्क तरीकत दी इत्थे फर्क नहीं मस्जिद मंदर दा तारे रगड़ा रगड़ा तारे रगड़ा तारे रगड़ा रगड़ा तारे रगड़ा तारे रगड़ा रगड़ा तारे रगड़ा तारे रगड़ा रगड़ा तारे रगड़ा.
Thank you.
Arieb Azhar. Oh, it's amazing. अरे बताएं कि did you study music then?
No, not formally, but actually recently for about a few years I've been learning classical music from a beautiful ustad. But otherwise I've just been hanging out with a lot of great musicians and spending time with them, and that's how I've been learning.
Oh, so you just learned through other people, and then you decided you wanted to embark on this career. Wasn't that scary?
No, I didn't look upon it as a career.
Yeah.
And it's more of a calling than a career, you know.
Oh.
And I think that dawned upon me when I was like in my late 20s in Croatia, playing in pubs and with different bands, with this Irish band mostly. And then it dawned upon me that this is not just a hobby and a passion, but this is actually my calling, and that's what I've been called upon to do. So then you just do it, and you know, and everything else keeps falling in place throughout.
तो आपकी आवाज़ जो है उसे आपने ट्रेन किया या?
हाँ, मतलब ये कि nothing is without practice, you know, like as what do they say, like 10% inspiration, 90% perspiration. So of course you have to practice, but yeah, you have to be inspired as well. So yeah.
And who were your inspirations when you were growing up?
Well, my inspirations, I've always been in love with folk music all over the world. You know, our folk music, I think, is amongst the best in the world. So, like, my inspirations have been from our great Qawwals, the Sabri brothers, Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan, Tufail Niazi, the great, I think, you know, Alam Lohar, Pathane Khan, Sain Juman, Abda Parveen, Reshma. And then outside, like, I've been inspired by a lot of Irish musicians. I love, like, Celtic folk music. Christy Moore from Dublin was very inspiring. Leonard Cohen, I love listening to. I listened to him live also, which was, I think, the best concert I went to. And a lot of gypsy music and Balkan music. So yeah. And well, these days I'm really into African music. I think that's just so, you know, organic.
Deep and rural.
I guess, yeah.
Yes, very masculine. You know, you just listed all the artists, legendary artists from Pakistan, and it made me think just then, you know, we are from the land of the legends, lekin hamari music industry is waqt struggle kar rahi hai. It's really sad, you know.
Yes, of course. I mean, if we were to dwell on the sad aspects of it.
Yes, no, please don't. It just adds a little thought.
There's no shortage.
Yeah.
But luckily, I think that this is precisely what's going to pull us through.
Yes.
You know, because this is what our folk heritage has given us in all our different languages. And the thing is that people in our village, in our cities are now moving away from that folk heritage, and it's not being substituted by any other humanist message. So that's why I think a lot of our urban middle classes are pretty confused as to who they really are, and to be comfortable with who you really are means to be comfortable with everyone else in the world as well. So it means to be more tolerant.
Positive thinking. चलते हैं अगली परफॉर्मेंस की जानिब.
ज़रूर. एक उर्दू में मैं गाना सुनाता हूँ. एक शेख अयाज एक शायर होते थे सिंध के, and most of his poetry was in Sindhi. He used to come to our house when I was a kid. This is one of his Urdu poems, and I consider the message very beautiful because it says, आज तो कह दे, आज तो कह दे, आज अलल ऐलान, मेरा कोई देश नहीं, मेरा देश जहान, मेरा कोई नाम नहीं, मैं हूँ बस इंसान.
वाह.
आज तो कहते आज अलल ऐलान, आज तो कहते आज अलल ऐलान, मेरा कोई देश नहीं है, मेरा देश जहान, मेरा कोई देश नहीं है, मेरा देश जहान. आज तो कहते आज अलल ऐलान, आज तो कहते आज अलल ऐलान, मेरा कोई देश नहीं है, मेरा देश जहान, मेरा कोई देश नहीं है, मेरा देश जहान, मेरा कोई नाम नहीं है, मैं हूँ बस इंसान, मेरा कोई नाम नहीं है, मैं हूँ बस इंसान, मेरा कोई देश नहीं है मेरा देश जहां, मेरा कोई देश नहीं है मेरा देश जहां। अब तो तोड़ो जंजीरें जिंदान, अब तो तोड़ो जंजीरें जिंदान। मेरा कोई देश नहीं है मेरा देश जहां, मेरा कोई देश नहीं है मेरा देश जहां। आज तो कहते आज लल्लैला, आज तो कहते आज लल्लैला। मेरा कोई देश नहीं है मेरा देश जहां, मेरा कोई देश नहीं है मेरा देश जहां।
Arieb Azhar, Jazba Acoustic. You're watching In the Limelight with Saima Ajram. You can get in touch, tweet me at Saima Ajram, and also hashtag ITLL. Arieb, amazing. Another round of applause for Arieb Azhar.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Arieb, आप काफी दुनिया में घूमे. You've also lived in Europe. कहाँ रहे हैं आप?
I lived in Croatia for 13 years, which was first Yugoslavia, then turned into Croatia, where I was.
तो आप वहाँ पढ़ने गए थे? Did your family go with you?
Initially I went to study, so एक साल मैंने जो है वो वहाँ की ज़बान सीखी. उस ज़माने में वो सर्बो क्रोआट कहलाती थी.
जी. और
फिर साल बाद उन्होंने कहा नहीं, अब इस ज़बान को क्रोएशियन कहना है आपने यहाँ पे, और सर्बिया में सर्बियन कहना है, बॉस्निया में बॉस्नियन कहना है एक ही ज़बान. So I learned that language and then I studied philosophy and Indology यानी कि बर्रे सगीर की तारीख सकाफत, which was a great opportunity because I got to study my own history, which unfortunately we block out in Pakistan. You know, we teach selective history to our kids, and so I got a chance to study, you know, from the Indus Valley to the Veds to Buddhism, and then, you know, the Maurya dynasty and all of that before the Delhi Sultanate, and then the Mughals and Sikhism. So it was very interesting because all of these are part of our roots, and to study them doesn't mean that, you know, you're converting from your religion into another religion or not appreciating your own religion. It's just a matter of accepting your roots and being inspired by them. So yeah.
तो वहाँ पे आपको कितनी इंस्पिरेशन मिली?
वहाँ मुझे बहुत इंस्पिरेशन मिली. एक तो मैंने देखा कि वहाँ पे भी वही मसले हैं जो हमारे यहाँ हैं कि Croatian, Bosnian, Serbian, you know, not getting along with each other for no real reason, even though they all sing the same songs and so on. So much like Pakistan, India, I feel, or in Bangladesh. But they've got, you know, because the Balkans, that whole region is the Balkans, and it's been the crossroads of many civilizations. So the Ottomans also ruled there, and it was part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And you've got a lot of gypsy influence there. And the gypsies originally, they say, migrated from what is today Rajasthan and Sindh and brought their music with them. So, you know, you find a lot of those scales over there which are very Eastern in their origin. So lots to be inspired by. Yeah.
Well, that explains why the big fat gypsy weddings can be as big as their weddings as well. Well, Croatia, not really a first choice for any Pakistani wanting to go out and study. It's not the first place you think of. I thought it was Harvard, then Oxford, फिर जाकर पता नहीं कौन सी country. लेकिन Croatia, so how did that?
Well, as I told you, I was like a young, disillusioned communist, and so I went to Yugoslavia. I made some friends who were in Pakistan making a documentary series on Pakistan, and they convinced me. They said, if you come to Yugoslavia, it's like a non-aligned country. So neither with the Russian camp nor with the American camp. It's got the best of socialism and capitalism. It's a beautiful, peaceful country where nothing ever happens. That part turned out to be wrong.
They lied.
It all blew up as soon as I landed.
It's
but
you. It's you taking the trouble with
I'd better get out of here quick. Yeah.
Yeah, so it wasn't as peaceful as they...
it wasn't peaceful, but it was everything else that they said it was. It was like a mixture of of socialism and capitalism. And I'm really glad I went because besides me, there were 2 other Pakistanis.
Hey!
So there's no question except to be integrated into that culture. And that was a great opportunity for me to, be imbibed, to absorb another culture and to share my experiences in that culture. So
I think it's beautiful. It's made you who you are today.
Absolutely.
Musically.
I consider it still as my other home. And even from here, after 3 days in London, I'm going to go to Croatia, meet with my old bandmates and do a few pub gigs and so on. So
Yay! आगे अब क्या सुनाएंगे?
आगे क्यों नहीं फिर एक बॉस्नियन गीत हो जाए क्योंकि यही हमारी गुफ्तगू हो रही थी
जी
इन बॉस्निया में एक किस्म के गाने होते हैं जिनको वो कहते हैं sevdah and sevdah means dard and these are like Bosnian folk songs very beautiful and this is a famous folk song a famous sevdah song called Amina like the name तो इसका तर्जुमा है last night as I returned from the hot hammam I passed by the courtyard of the old Imam, and there amongst the jasmine flowers there stood beautiful Amina. I called out to her salam, but by my fate she didn't even turn her head to look at me. She just took the water pitcher in her hand and she walked on down the garden path. And then the refrain goes, Aishi Aisha, Ya Basha, Konya Yashe Subasha. So Aishi Aisha are sounds you make for the horses to run. So he says, Aishi Aisha, I am trying to tame this wild horse. And the wild horse, of course, not meaning Amina, meaning the self. And in the end, he says, even though the old poet is no more, and Amina is no more, and the jasmine flowers have withered, and the pitcher of water is broken, but the love song of Amina is eternal.
Wow. Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Sinoć kad se vraćah iz toplog hamama prođog pokraj bašće staroga imama kad tamo u bašći u sjeni jasmina s ibrikom u ruci stajaše Emina Ajši, Ajša, Jabaša konja jaše Subaša Ajši Aisha, Yabasha, Konya Yashe Subasha Jajoj nazvak selam Al moga vidina Ne htije ni da čuje Preljepa Emina Već u srebren i brik zahvatila vode, a niz bašću čule zaljevati ode. Ajši, Ajša, Jabaša, konja jaše Subaša Ajši, Ajša, Jabaša konja jaše Subaša Umro stari pjesnik, umrla Emina Nestade i one bašće od jasmina Razbijen je i brik, uvelo je cvijeće Pjesma o Emini nikad umrijet neće Ajši, Aisha Yabasha Konya Yashi Subasha Aishi Aisha Yabasha Konya Yashi Koima.
Beautiful, amazing. How did the Croatians take up to a Pakistani singing in their language?
Yeah, it was very exotic, and it was nice to be exotic, you know, and to feel special. And it's good because you can break a lot of the prejudices that people have by watching the international news, which is, of course, also true. But it's far from the whole truth. We know that there's so much more to our country than you know what we see on the news, and that's what needs to get through. And that you can only make, you know, you can only get it through a human-to-human contact level. So it was a beautiful opportunity.
How important is it for you then to get the pronunciations right?
Oh, as important as it is for me in getting the pronunciations right in Punjabi and Urdu.
Yeah.
So of course, like for any good musician artist, you have to, like, you know, to own the pronunciation.
You spent a lot of time mastering it then?
Yeah, like sang it forever.
It actually seems really natural. It didn't even seem like you were singing a foreign song.
No, well, it's you know, I speak Croatian and Bosnian just as well, so.
So did this track feature in your album, Watch?
It did. It was the last track on my album because I wanted to, like, you know, pay homage to my time spent over there and my experiences over there. So we arranged it with the album Vaj was recorded in Karachi when I just newly returned to Pakistan about 11, 12 years ago. The album was recorded, I think, about 9 years ago. But I still hadn't got a band together. I still hadn't met Dani and my other colleagues who we perform with. So we had a lot of session musicians from Karachi who were great, and I learned a lot from them. So we arranged it in a very sort of an Eastern way, which was very interesting for Bosnians whose folk song this is. So they play it sometimes in Radio Sarajevo and so on because it's an interesting arrangement for them.
And then do you have a big fan following then in Croatia?
Well, you know, it's a small country, so it's not too difficult to.
People recognize you, obviously, for your music.
Yeah. I played in all the venues over there and festivals and so on. So.
Lovely. अच्छा आगे क्या सुनाएंगे?
आगे क्या है? आगे एक अंग्रेजी में भी हो जाए, since we're going all multicultural.
अंग्रेजी में भी हो जाए?
It's an Irish song. It's an old Irish folk song, which Nina Simone also did a cover of, and. It's called Black is the Color of My True Love's Hair. 'Cause black is the color of my true love's hair. Her lips are like some roses fair. She has the sweetest smile and the gentlest hands. I love the ground whereon she stands. I love my love, and well she knows. I love the ground whereon she goes. I wish the day it soon would come when she and I could be as one. I go to the Clyde, I mourn and weep, satisfied I never can be. Then I write her a letter, just a few short lines, and suffer debts 1,000 times. 'Cause black is the color of my true love's hair.
her lips are like some roses fair. She has the sweetest smile and the gentlest hand. I love the ground whereon she stands. I love the ground whereon she stands. Yes, I love the ground whereon she stands.
Arieb Azhar, world music at its best. World music कहूँगी एक आदमी में इतनी सारी languages, इतना सारा music, so well travelled. Where are you? Where is your heart from, Arieb? Where do you belong?
I belong right here. And I feel very fortunate that I've wherever I am, of course, I miss some other part of the world.
Yeah.
But I feel very fortunate that I feel at home wherever I am. And in all the places I've been to so far, at least. And so I belong right here.
So you wouldn't say Ghar is a specific country?
Ghar is a state of mind.
Ah. Do you have a family?
I do. I'm not married, but I've got my folks who I live with, and my youngest sister who's like an angel because she's got Down syndrome, and so she's like just got this most innocent way of looking at the world, which is really beautiful to see the world through her eyes. So yeah, we live together in Islamabad.
Oh, lovely. Watch के बारे में पूछना चाहती थी.
जी.
So you had a variety of different tracks on there, ranging from gypsy. You said you had Croatian music.
Well, just one
Punjabi.
Bosnian track. The rest was Punjabi, Saraiki, and Urdu.
Saraiki and Urdu. I think some people in the audience are looking forward to the Saraiki and Urdu tracks as well.
Zarur.
Jo आपने कहा था एक Croatian. Why a choice of having one Croatian amongst all those?
Well, because the album was made in Pakistan for Pakistanis, and wherever I am, I want to communicate with the people around me. And since I'm based in Pakistan, so I want to communicate with Pakistanis, and obviously they don't speak Croatian, Bosnian. So I use the languages which are spoken there and which I'm comfortable with. And
No, I was referring to having the one Croatian track. Maybe I thought maybe you would have had another album for that. The choice
maybe
of putting it amongst the Pakistanis.
Well, I had an old Irish music album with some more Croatian tracks when I used to live in Croatia, but I can't listen to that anymore because I feel I was so bad back then that. No.
But you're amazing. I can't believe you were ever that bad.
Well, you'd be surprised, but thank you.
चलिए आगे क्या सुनाएंगे?
आगे एक बाबा बुल्ले शाह पे आते हैं मेरे ख्याल में.
बाबा बुल्ले शाह हो जाए? बाबा बुल्ले शाह हो जाए? Come on, Birmingham, let's make some noise.
अच्छा, मजे की बात है पाकिस्तान में. थैंक यू. बाबा बुल्ले शाह की जो शायरी है, अक्सर लोग पाकिस्तान में मुझसे कहते हैं जी आप क्या बजाते हैं, क्या गाते हैं. मैं कहता हूँ मैं बाबा बुल्ले शाह. वो कहते हैं माशाल्लाह अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह. लेकिन समझ नहीं आती उनको कि बुल्ले शाह कह क्या रहा है. तो बुल्ले शाह जो है is a very very universal poet.
Yes.
And very very local and very very universal at the same time, which is its beauty. तो बाबा बुल्ले शाह का एक मैं अगर पहले रिसाइट कर लूँ और फिर सुना दूँ कुछ. बाबा बुल्ले शाह कहते हैं झूठ आखां कुछ बजदा है, कि झूठ बोला तो कुछ बच जाता है. झूठ आखां कुछ बजदा है, सच आखां बांबड़ मचदा है, आग भड़कती है. दोनों गल्लां तो जी जचदा है, डरता है. जज जज के जीभां कहंदी है, मुँह आई बात ना रहंदी है, मुँह आई बात ना रहंदी है. जिस पाया भेद कलंदर दा, राह खोजिया अपने अंदर दा. ओ वासी है सुख मंदर दा, जिथे चढ़दी है ना लैंदी है. मुँह आई बात ना रहंदी है, मुँह आई बात ना रहंदी है. एक लाजिम बात अदब दी है, सानू बात मालूमी सबदी है. हर हर विच सूरत रब दी है, किते जाहिर किते छुप बहंदी है. मुँह आई बात ना रहंदी है. बुल्ला शो असाथी वख नहीं, कि महबूब जो है वो मुझसे अलग नहीं है. बुल्ला शो असाथी वख नहीं, बिन शौ ते दुझा कख नहीं. पर वेखण वाली अख नहीं, ताई जान जुदाइयां सहंदी है. मुँह आई बात ना रहंदी है, मुँह आई बात ना रहंदी है. पढ़ पढ़ इल्म किताबां दा तू नाम रख लिया काजी, पढ़ पढ़ इल्म किताबां दा तू नाम रख लिया काजी, हथ विच फड़ के तलवारां तू नाम रख लिया गाजी, मक्के मदीने घूम आया तू नाम रख लिया हाजी, बुल्ला तू की हासिल कीता जे यार न रखिया राजी।
ओए होए, वाह।
और फिर बाबा बुल्ले शाह कहते हैं कि अगर मुझे रब जो है वो रिचुअल्स में मिलता, नहाने धोने के रिचुअल्स, तो फिर वो मेंढकों और मछलियों को पहले मिल जाता।
जे रब मिलदा नहातियां धोतियां ते मिलदा डडुआं मच्छियां नूं, जे रब मिलदा जंगल फिरिया ते मिलदा गायां बच्चियां नूं, जे रब मिलदा मंदर मसीतां मिलदा चिड़ी चिमगादड़ां नूं, बुल्ले शाह रब उन्हां नूं मिलदा अते दिलियां सच्चियां अच्छियां नूं। असां इश्क नमाज, असां इश्क नमाज जदों नीती है, असां इश्क नमाज जदों नीती है, तदों भूल गए मंदर मसीती है, असां इश्क नमाज। ओ मुल्ला छोड़ दे इल्म किताबां दा, ओ मुल्ला छोड़ दे इल्म किताबां दा, ऐवें चुके आए बार अज़ाबां दा, मुल्ला छोड़ दे इल्म किताबां दा, ऐवें चुके आए बार अज़ाबां दा, वज़ू कर ले शौक शराबां दा, वज़ू कर ले शौक शराबां दा, साडे अंदर बाहर पलीती है, साडे अंदर बाहर पलीती है, असां इश्क नमाज। ओ तैको काबे दे विच नूर दिसे, ओ तैको काबे दे विच नूर दिसे, साडे पुत खाने विच हजूर बसे, तैको काबे दे विच नूर दिसे, साडे पुत खाने विच हजूर बसे, सब नेड़े तैको दूर दिसे, सब नेड़े तैको दूर दिसे, साडी नीयत विच बदनीती है, साडी नीयत विच बदनीती है, असां इश्क नमाज। राती जागी करी इबादत, राती जागन कुत्ते, भौंकणों बंद मूल ना होंदे, जारुड़ी ते सुत्ते, कसम अपने दा दर ना छड्डदे, पावे वचन जुत्ते, तैंती उत्ते तैंती उत्ते तैंती उत्ते। ओ भुल्ले शाह कोई रखत बेहाज ले, नहीं ताबाजी ले गए कुत्ते वो भुल्ला नच के यार मनाया वो भुल्ला नच के यार मनाया सारे दिल दा कुफर दबाया भुल्ला नच के यार मनाया सारे दिल दा कुफर दबाया अपने दिल दा मकसद पाया अपने दिल दा मकसद पाया जदों नजर इनायत कीती जदों नजर इनायत कीती असां इश्क नमाज जदों नीती असां इश्क नमाज जदों नीती जदों भूल गए मंदर मसीती असां इश्क नमाज
Arieb Azhar live, Jazba Acoustic in the Limelight with Saima Ajram.
and Kashif Ali Dani.
Kashif, alongside Kashif Ali Dani, amazing. पाकिस्तान में बहुत कल्चर है मज़ार्स पे जाने का, वहाँ पे आपको कव्वाली सिंगर्स एक्सेट्रा मिलेंगे. Did you visit many of those as a child?
Not as a child, but later on, and mostly when I some things before I went to Croatia, but mostly when I came back. Some of the interesting Urs Melas, some of the very peaceful, inspiring Urs Melas, and some of the completely mad Urs Melas. but yeah, of course, that's a very interesting part of our culture because these Melas, in Pakistan are like the melting pot where everything just comes together. The good and the bad, the beautiful and the ugly, and the rich and the poor. And people just coming to seek solace or to ask for some, to have some prayers fulfilled, or people just coming for some spiritual experience, or for tourism, or to make a fast buck, So it's where you can really see
the whole world is there.
Cross section of Pakistan over there. So it's very interesting.
See, I ask you that is because Saif al-Malook bhi aapne kafi recite kiya hai.
Ji.
And have you ever visited Mazar unka? Khadi Sharif.
Khadi Sharif.
Has anyone here been to Khadi Sharif? Yay! I'm from Khadi Sharif. My nan came from Khadi Sharif.
Acha.
So yeah, it's my home.
Sona mazar hai.
That's my hometown. So it's so it's beautiful to hear you recite that. I think there was a few people that said that they were here just to hear the Saif al-Malook. They love Saif al-Malook, especially here in the UK. I find lots of people follow Saif al-Malook. They love it. So did any of you guys listen to the BBC Asian Network? Hey! Does anyone listen to my show on a Sunday? Thank you. Sunday 4 till 6, guys. Make sure you do, because I do try my best to support Pakistani music. Pakistani music industry really needs our support. Our youngsters need our support. We need to support them. We need to push it forward. Lots of talent out there, as Arieb was saying, and you're going to get to see Arieb Azhar later as well. Lots of immense talent out there. We really need to promote it. And you never know, hamare apne bachche bhi shayad in the future want to, become artists, become singers, and they need to have someone to look up to. And we're there. So in the Limelight, it's all about that as well. I try to promote Pakistani music as much as I can, Pakistani entertainment, because there's not many places you get Pakistani entertainment news. So I try to do that as well. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. And while you're there on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to Jazba Entertainment as well. Jazba Entertainment, ke liye kuch taaliyan ho jaye, because we've got the boss here today. And my producer's Pervaiz. I want a special round of applause for him, because the guy works round the clock. He works so hard. Pervaiz, put your hand up. Tonight's only possible because of individuals like Pervaiz and Aisha in the audience. I can't see her right now. But yeah, these guys work round the clock and they hardly even get paid for it. But they do it all in the aid of live music. And if you've got young children and if you're in Birmingham, why don't you go down, pop off to the studio if you want them to learn maybe an instrument as an extracurricular activity. It's a good idea. I would if I was in Birmingham, because I think it's really good. Okay,
music is absolutely, music is so important. I think Plato also used to say that the earliest education for children, the earliest tarbiyat should be music. So music is something that really puts us in tune with ourselves, with the cosmos. Good music, obviously, bad music might as well be haram. But good music.
हमारा नहीं. I think it's lovely, and I think something I'm definitely going to be looking into for my kids. I know what that is now. I know the guitar language.
Yeah,
I'm getting good. Yes.
Well done.
I'm getting good. I've inherited a guitar. As I was telling these guys, I interviewed someone for my YouTube channel, Falak, the singer Falak, and I said, "Oh, that's a lovely guitar. Can I have it?" And he said, "Yes, you can." And he gifted it to me.
Wow.
And I thought that's amazing.
So I hope you're playing it.
Yes, I stopped my 2-year-old from playing it. She loves it. She just wants to, break it. But I try and stop her.
A round of applause then for Saima.
But yes, I'm trying to learn. I need to get a lesson. Are you in the UK for long? Maybe you can teach me.
I can show you like 2 chords, 3 chords, but then I'm off.
इतने ही काफी है यार. मुझे कौन सा हर रोज बजाना है? 2 chords से start करेंगे तो शायद 3 आ जाए, फिर जाके 4 आ जाए.
हाँ, बिल्कुल इसी तरह होता है, एक-एक करके.
Yes.
Small steps.
Of course.
So Saif al-Muluk, we were saying, Mia Mohammad Baksh की शायरी है. One of the greatest poets of Pahadi, Potwari, Punjabi language. And it's actually a folk tale which he adapted. This is an old tale of Saif al-Muluk.
Yes.
Of the prince from Egypt called Saif al-Muluk, and the fairy princess he fell in love with, Shehzadi Badi'uz-Zaman. But he took this old folk tale and he turned it into a tale of wisdom, which and so many of the verses of this tale really teaches us how to live, and that's what Sufi poetry does. It teaches you how to live. It teaches you how to be a better human being. So just a few verses. Danishmando suno tamami अर्ज फकीर करेंदा जो कोई आपे चंगा होवे सबनू भला तकैंदा रहमत दामी पा खुदाया बाग सुखा कर हरिया बूटा आस उम्मीद दा मेरे कर दे मेवे पड़िया ओ सदा ना बागी बुलबुल बोले सदा ना बाग बहारा सदा नामा बेओ हुस्न जवानी सदा ना सोबत यारा ओ बाल चिराग इश्क दा मेरे रोशन कर दे सीना दिल दे तीरे दी रोशनाई जावे विच ज़मीना फंस गई जान शिकंजे अंदर जो बेलन विच गन्ना रोनू कहो रहवे मोहम्मद जे रहवे ता मैं मन्ना ओ दुश्मन मरे ते खुशी ना करिए सजना भी मर जाना दीगर ते दिन होया मोहम्मद औड़क नू डुब जाना ओ माली दा कम पानी पाना पर मशका पावे मालिक दा कम फल फुल लाना लावे या ना लावे यूसुफ पूछे दस जुलेखा
किथे गई ये जवानी बोले ज़ुलैखा इश्क तेरे विच दे छड़ी कुर्बानी ओ यूसुफ पुछया दस ज़ुलैखा किथे गईयां नी अखियां बोले ज़ुलैखा इश्क तेरे विच बाछुरियां कड़ सटियां ओ बाल चिराग इश्क दा मेरे रोशन कर दे सीना दिल दे दीवे दी रोशनाई जावे विच ज़मीना ओ सदा बहार दे इस बागी कदी खजाना आवे ओ बन फैज़ हज़ारा ताई हर भुक्का फल खावे ओ मस्जिद टा दे मंदर टा दे जो कुछ टैंदा एक बंदे दा दिल ना टावी रब दिलां विच रैंदा ओ एक बंदे दा दिल ना टावी रब दिलां विच रैंदा ओ एक बंदे दा दिल ना टावी रब दिलां विच रैंदा
Saif Malouk in the vocals of Arieb Azhar.
Thank you.
Amazing, amazing, and takes me back. My nana Abu used to tell me a story. Me and my Bakshab, and they live in a village called Takrachak, which is just next to the Darbar. And he used to tell me, and Allah good nasib kare, and he won't move because it's just on the side of the mountain. He refused to move from there because me and my Bakshab had actually been to their house back in the day.
Wow.
So he refused to move from that place, and now my mum won't move there because his dad won't move there, and the kids are still there. So that's my Nanka house.
So this is like just immortal poetry for me. I mean, it's the best I've come across anywhere in my wanderings in the world.
Yes.
It's just so universal and so beautiful. And it's a pity that we don't teach these in schools, you know. I mean, like, you can go to the best schools in Pakistan. I did. And you don't learn about what Bulle Shah wrote in Punjabi, what Shah Abdul Latif Bhitai wrote in Sindhi, what Rahman Baba wrote in Pashto, Mastauq Ali and Balochi. And how will we then get a sense of identity? How will we know? So there has to be trouble.
And you had to travel out to discover all this?
Yeah, there's so much to gather in these times of chaos. You know, when knowledge is being spilt, I think the smart ones should just spread out their jolly and gather it.
Yeah, and I think it's lovely the fact that we can actually go and teach ourselves as well. We have the opportunity.
Absolutely.
In the world's out tour, and we can do it.
Absolutely.
You've performed on Coke Studio as well, a number of times.
Twice, two seasons, yeah.
Yes, and not every artist gets that opportunity. It was amazing to see you on there twice.
Thank you.
Coke Studio has become an entity of its own, very, very popular. And do you think you actually gained more popularity by performing at Coke Studio?
No doubt. Like before, people used to listen to my music, but you know, it wasn't so much out there. And of course, Coke Studio brought me into the mainstream. Before that, I was considered underground. So Coke Studio has done wonders for many artists. One can, you know, discuss about, one can talk about the quality of the music, like it's not always... For me personally, in every season, there are one or two songs which I personally like. The rest for me is like pretty repetitive. Yes. But the project in itself has done wonders for just putting many musicians out there. And it's been a great project in that.
I think it's a great way of keeping live music alive. And we need that. Yeah, I think around the world we need that.
Absolutely.
Live music seems to be.
It's a great project if you combine it with live music events.
Yes.
And that's what needs to happen in Pakistan much, much more.
Yes.
I mean, there's not a single place in Pakistan where you can, every weekend you can go and listen to live music, you know. And whereas you have so many musicians. So that's what we're trying to change and trying to come up with venues and festivals and so on. So small steps.
We'll talk more about you organising events and the future of music after your next track.
Sure. So why don't I do the first track which I did for Coke Studio, season 3?
Yes.
Season 2? Season 3. Season 3, I think. It's a great piece of poetry, in my opinion, by Khwaja Ghulam Farid from South Punjab. And a French friend of mine actually showed it to me first, who speaks better Punjabi than I do and better Urdu than I do. He's got his 4th book published in Urdu now, Julian. So he first pointed this poem out to me, and very few people had heard of it. It's very similar to the other great poem by Khwaja Ghulam Farid, which Pathan Khan immortalized, Menda Ish Vi Tu, Menda Yaar Vi Tu. And it's got a similar content, a similar message, because in it Khwaja Ghulam Farid addresses God or the truth. And he says, "O beauty of truth, the eternal light, how shall I call you? How shall I call thee? Shall I call thee chance or necessity? Shall I call thee my doubt or my faith or my sorrow or joy? Shall I call thee Krishna or Ram, or shall I call thee Noah or the flood?" And he goes through all the mythological concepts of the truth in the subcontinent. And in the end he says, "Whatever I call thee, I fall short, because your totality cannot be captured in a name." And yet people wage war over names.
Of course.
हुस्न हकीकी नूरे अज़ल है, हुस्न हकीकी नूरे अज़ल, तनु वाजिब ते इम्कान कहूं, तनु खालक ज़ात कदीम कहूं, तनु हादिस खल्क जहान कहूं, तनु मुतलक महज वजूद कहूं, तनु अलमिया आयान कहूं, अरबा नफूस अकूल कहूं, अशबा यान निहान कहूं, तनु अर्श कहूं, अफलाक कहूं, तनु नाज नईम जनान कहूं, तनु तट जमात नबात कहूं, हैवान कहूं, इंसान कहूं, तनु मस्जिद मंदर तैर कहूं, तनु पोथी ते कुरान कहूं, तस्बीह कहूं, सुन्नार कहूं, तनु कुफ्र कहूं, ईमान कहूं, तनु बादल बरखा गाज कहूं, तनु बिजली ते बारान कहूं, तनु आग कहूं, तनु खाक कहूं, तनु बाद कहूं, नीरान कहूं, तनु दशरथ लिचमन राम कहूं, तनु सीता जी जानान कहूं, बलदेव जसूदानंद कहूं, तनु कृष्ण कन्हैया कान कहूं, तनु ब्रह्मा विष्णु गणेश कहूं, महादेव कहूं, भगवान कहूं, तनु गीत ग्रंथ ते वेद कहूं, तनु ज्ञान कहूं, अज्ञान कहूं, तनु इब्राहिम हवाशीस कहूं, तनु नूह कहूं, तूफान कहूं, तनु इब्राहिम खलील कहूं, तनु मूसा बिन इमरान कहूं, तनु हर दिलदार कहूं, तनु अहमद आली शान कहूं, तनु शाहिद मल्क हिजाज कहूं, तनु बायस कौन मकान कहूं, तनु नाज कहूं, अंदाज कहूं, तनु हूर परी गिलमान कहूं, तनु नोक कहूं, तनु टोक कहूं, तनु सुरभि बीड़ा पान कहूं, तनु तबला ते तंबूर कहूं, तनु ढोलक सुर ते तान कहूं, तनु हुस्न ते हार सिंगार कहूं, तनु अशबा हमजा आन कहूं, तनु इश्क कहूं, तनु इल्म कहूं, तनु वहम यकीन गुमान कहूं, तनु हुस्न कवि इदराक कहूं, तनु ज़ौक़ कहूं, वजदान कहूं, तनु सकर कहूं, सकरान कहूं, तनु हैरत ते हैरान कहूं, ओ तस्लीम कहूँ तलवीन कहूँ तमकीन कहूँ इरफान कहूँ तनु सुंबल सो सन सर्व कहूँ तनु नरगिस ना फरमान कहूँ तनु लाले अदाग ते बाग कहूँ गुलजार कहूँ बुस्तान कहूँ तनु खंजर तीर तुफंग कहूँ तनु बरछा बांक सनान कहूँ तनु तीर खिदंग कमान कहूँ सुपार कहूँ पीकान कहूँ ओ बेरंग कहूँ बेमिसल कहूँ बेसूरत हर हर आन कहूँ सुब्बू कहूँ कुद्दूस कहूँ रहमान कहूँ सुब्हान कहूँ कर तौबा तुरत फरीद सदा हर शैनू पुर नुकसान कहूँ वो तनु पाक अलख बेऐब कहूँ तनु हक बेनाम निशान कहूँ तनु पाक अलख बेऐब कहूँ तनु हक बेनाम निशान कहूँ तनु पाक अलख बेऐब कहूँ तनु हक बेनाम निशान कहूँ तनु पाक अलख बेऐब कहूँ तनु हक बेनाम निशान कहूँ
Hasna Hakiki, bringing eloquence to age-old poetry. Arieb Azhar. Beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you.
We spoke about live music and keeping the live music scene alive, and I said it's really important for artists, especially, to start working on it themselves. You have been. Tell us exactly what you've been doing.
Well, I've just been trying to be more disciplined with my time, basically, because it's very difficult when you don't work for anyone but yourself, you know.
Gee.
And then you always have this nagging feeling that you're being lazy, and oftentimes you are, you know. So because there's no timings, there's no boss to tell you what to do, when to do it. So you just got to keep on pushing through. So recently, I've just been like focusing more on writing. I'd like to write more and composing more stuff, finding more beautiful poetry, and trying to write some myself. And organizing this festival that this has now become a part of Islamabad. So when I go back, we're going to start setting up the program, contacting other musicians. And generally, there's just so much to be done. There's so much archiving work to be done in Pakistan, you know, before it's all washed away. So we really need to preserve for antiquity the beautiful things from our culture.
Do you think you'd work on the teachings or the curriculum, maybe, like you mentioned, the fact that we don't teach our children this? Would you maybe start working on that?
Well, I have been, and through this music conference, we brought this issue up. We had a separate session about how important it is to teach music and to teach this poetry, this humanist poetry, this poetry of tolerance and inclusiveness through our various languages and through music, because they're supposed to be sung. And 2-3 times I've been to our parliament. And made a case for it and advocated teaching music in our school curriculums, but we still got some way to go before we can get everyone
Well, I can tell
involved.
you, I'll put my name up to support you, and
Thank you.
there's a few organisations that I know of in the UK that would love to support that.
Brilliant, thank you.
And I'm sure people here would love to support that too.
Thank you.
So tell us, Arieb, what's next for Arieb Azhar? What can we expect from you now?
What song should I
No,
sing?
in terms of career-wise.
Well, just more of the same, I suppose.
Are you working on an album, maybe? For
yeah.
future?
I've got a lot of songs ready to be recorded. We've already done some recordings, and I need to go back and complete them. And so absolutely. Hopefully, in the next couple of months. Now, I'm just going to release singles. So as soon as I go back, we're going to put one song out there, and then more songs as they keep coming. So there's a lot of stuff ready.
How important are videos to your music?
Videos were very important for Pakistani musicians, especially for the newcomers, because for a while we had all these music channels in Pakistan.
Yes.
Indus TV, ARG TV, what was it? Vibe, not Vibe. MTV and Play TV. But now, unfortunately, the only music channel that's left is ARY Music, and they mostly play Indian content.
Yes.
And another thing which I found out while advocating for music, was that according to our PEMRA laws, according to our broadcasting laws,
Yes.
all our broadcasters, including private television, are only supposed to run 20% foreign material and 80% local material, which they don't do. So I feel that even though we absolutely should not ban foreign music and especially Indian music, but we need some sort of protectionist policy through our media.
We need to support our own music.
We need to support our own music. Absolutely.
We need to, and only we
Absolutely.
can do that.
Only we can do that. Yeah.
Hospital ho jaye. They nearly did it. Nearly did it. So, Shai, the clip from today's evening, we can put in the next video, Pervaiz. Definitely, yeah. We're all going to
Thank
be
you.
in the video, guys. Going to be famous.
Thank you. Pervaiz has been like supporting me and supporting my journey as a musician for many, many years. So it's always a pleasure coming here, and he's been very, very encouraging about everything I do. So thank you, Pervaiz bhai.
Oh, you know what? He's a really sweet guy, I have to admit. I think I wanted to start my own YouTube channel. I had this idea for a couple of years, and finally I got through to someone, I think it was Zeb, on New Year's, and I said, oh, I want to make this show real. I want to start this YouTube channel. And he said, oh, you must speak to my colleague called Pervaiz, and here's his number, call him. And I was like, oh God, I wonder who this guy is. Phone him. And I called him, and then he said, why don't you just come and see us? And it was New Year's Eve, and I said, oh, well, we're busy. And he said, just come tonight. And literally I went down with my friends. I took my friends. I thought, oh God, strange guy on the phone. Wonder what he's going to say. Wonder who he is. Weirdo. He's told me to come tonight. So literally went down. But you know what? He's one of the nicest guys that I've ever met. And he's got such a big heart.
Absolutely.
And you know, I can call him any time of the day. Pervaiz, what's happened? And everything's always done. And he's brilliant. And we need more of Pervaiz's. And supports everyone. And has always got a yes for everything. And he makes sure that it's done. So it's nice to meet. And I got to meet you guys through Pervaiz today, so another round of applause for that. Jilka, is that your final track for the evening?
I guess it is, and with your permission, it's going to be a slightly malamati track.
Achha.
It's a track which is slightly controversial because it's called Hum Charsi Bhangi Hain,
Oy hoy, meri ijazat
par
nahi hai
sabke
mujhe.
sangi hain. So
That sounds great, doesn't it?
It was written by a friend of mine, Arshad Bhatti, and the point of it was to put across to people that look, everyone must be included in society, and you can't reject anyone because he doesn't fall into the mainstream norms.
Absolutely.
And it was written from the point of view of those who have been discarded by society and who are sitting on the sides, but they're saying that, look, we haven't done any harm to anyone.
Exactly.
So hum charsi bhangi hain, par sabke sangi hain.
An excellent one to play out with, yeah? हम चरसी भंगी हैं पर सबके संगी हैं.
हम चरसी भंगी हैं पर सबके संगी हैं. कर एक बार तू एतबार फिर देख तमाशा यारी का. हम चरसी भंगी हैं पर सबके संगी हैं. कर एक बार तू एतबार फिर देख तमाशा यारी का. इससे मुझे वो बाबा बुल्ले शाह का आता है याद कि बुल्ला आशिक होयो रब दा हुई मलामत लाख. तैनू काफिर काफिर आख दे तू आहो आहो आख.
वाह.
हम कत्ल नहीं करते, जंग नहीं लड़ते, दगा नहीं देते, हम जगह नहीं लेते. हम सबके संगी हैं, अमन उमंगी हैं. हर एक बार तू एतबार फिर देख तमाशा यारी का. ना झूठे ना राशि, ना डाकू ना रहसन. हम पंद नहीं करते, हम तंग नहीं करते हम भले मानस हैं सजन धरती के हर एक बार तू एतबार फिर देख तमाशा यारी का इंसान से ईमान से सुन ले सुना दे पता नहीं सो पूछ ले समझ लिया बता दे दोस्ती मुस्कान है जीवन का ईमान है कर एक बार तू एतबार फिर देख तमाशा यारी का पंचरस और बुज़दिली इल्जाम है दुश्नाम है छुपा हुआ तू जान ले सच को पहचान ले दोस्ती मुस्कान है जीवन का ईमान है कर एक बार तू एतबार फिर देख तमाशा यारी का हम चरसी भंगी हैं पर सबके संगी हैं कर एक बार तू एतबार फिर देख तमाशा यारी का कर एक बार तू एतबार फिर देख तमाशा यारी का कर एक बार तू एतबार फिर देख तमाशा यारी
Thank you very much.
Arieb Azhar, what an inspirational human being, and what a pleasure it was to meet you today. It was lovely to have you.
Thank you very much. And Kashif Ali, Dani on the tabla.
Thank you very much, guys. Isn't he a nice guy? Amazing guy. Thank you very much for being on In the Limelight with Saima Ajram and to playing at Jazba Acoustic tonight, our very first live session. I'm going to give you a round of applause myself. Thank you. Oh. It's always nice to meet inspirational people. That's why I love my job. I do get to meet really nice people, inspirational people, people who work so hard for one goal. And they can spend their whole life trying as well, bless them. And they work so hard celebrating music around the world. And thousands of miles away is history. And the special thing about today's episode of In the Limelight is that you're not just getting to see these artists, you're getting to meet them through me, of course, through this program and through Jazba Acoustic. And I think you guys need to give yourselves a round of applause as well, because you guys have been an amazing audience. It is really nice to have you guys. We'll be doing these sessions more regularly, I hear, but I'm sure we'll keep you guys on our guest list and let you know.